Good morning, Hot Topic and Fresh News listeners. Today, on the 25th of February, 2024, we bring you the latest news shaking headlines. A gripping tale of life and death unfolds as Kouri Richins, mother and realtor, faces murder charges following the mysterious fentanyl overdose of her husband, Eric Richins. A month after Eric's passing, Kouri found herself behind bars, accused of orchestrating a death that reeks of money, deceit, and illicit substances. The couple first crossed paths in 2009 at a Home Depot, leading to a marriage and 3 sons. By all accounts, they were successful, Kouri in real estate and Eric in masonry. A picture-perfect life, it seemed, until Eric's sudden death and the subsequent whirlwind of accusations, suspicion, and a children's book on coping with loss written by Kouri herself. Interesting to note are the multiple insurance policies on Eric, with allegations of forgery and financial mismanagement adding a sinister hue to these dealings. How did a lively family celebration end in a fatal overdose? Did Eric's recreational habit lead him unknowingly to consume something laced with the lethal opioid, or is there more to the story? The accused maintains her innocence while the prosecution presents digital evidence of suspicious Google searches and alleged drug deals. Complicating the case further, Kouri faces allegations of witness tampering stemming from a letter discovered in her jail cell instructing her brother on courtroom testimony. A tale of intrigue, sorrow, and suspicion, we eagerly wait for the upcoming trial. Stay tuned as we continue to unravel this story. Good morning, Hot Topic and Fresh News listeners. This is your reliable news source, Emily.
And joining alongside is David, ready to dig into the nitty-gritty of today's top stories.
Don't forget, we're here with you every day, bringing the most pressing news to your ears. So subscribe and hit that notification bell to ensure you never miss a beat with us. Now, let's get straight to the hot topics.
Could you tell us more about the events leading up to Eric Richins' death?
Certainly. On the night of March 4th, 2022, Kouri and Eric Richins were celebrating a new house-flipping deal. Kouri made Eric a Moscow Mule, which is now under suspicion due to the alleged presence of fentanyl. Tragically, Eric was found unresponsive in their bed later that night and was pronounced deceased by first responders.
And what led investigators to suspect Kouri in her husband's death?
The medical examiner's report was a crucial piece of the puzzle. Eric's cause of death was attributed to a lethal overdose of fentanyl, an opioid he reportedly didn't use. This raised immediate red flags for the authorities. Furthermore, Eric had earlier expressed concerns to his family about Kouri's intentions towards him, which added fuel to the suspicion.
How is Kouri defending herself against these allegations?
Kouri continues to maintain her innocence. Her attorney, Sky Lazaro, argues that the prosecution needs to provide evidence that she obtained and administered the drugs to Eric in order to prove murder.
Were there any peculiar occurrences after Eric's death?
Interestingly, Kouri penned a children's book about coping with grief shortly after her husband's passing, which she promoted on a local TV show. However, weeks later, she was arrested and charged with murder.
Are there any other potential motives at play here?
Indeed, the prosecution points to financial trouble and life insurance policies worth millions as potential motives, allegations that Kouri's family vehemently denies.
What's the current status of the trial?
The case is still pending trial, with both families anxiously awaiting the proceedings. Additional charges of witness tampering have also been levied against Kouri, making this a complex and intriguing case to watch.
Can you give us some insight into the night of Eric's death?
According to Lisa Darden, Kouri's mother, Kouri made Eric a Moscow Mule and they went to bed around 9:15. Kouri later woke up to check on their 9-year-old son, Ash, who frequently had nightmares. When she returned to her bed, she found Eric cold and unresponsive. She immediately called 911 and performed CPR, but despite the first responders' efforts, it was unfortunately too late.
What was the initial cause of death suspected by the first responders?
Initially, first responders thought Eric might have died from an aneurysm. He was only 39 at the time of his death and the father of 3 young boys.
Did the Richins children witness the aftermath of their father's death?
Yes, the children saw the ambulances and police cars arriving and were visibly distressed. They sat together and cried, a heartbreaking sight far removed from the happy family they once were.
Can you share a bit about Kouri and Eric's relationship?
Kouri and Eric met in 2009 while working at a local Home Depot. Their relationship blossomed and they married in 2013, later having 3 boys. According to Lisa, Eric was a natural father and both he and his boys idolized each other.
How did Kouri's family feel about Eric when they first met him?
Kouri's brothers, Ronnie and DJ, were initially protective, but they quickly saw that Eric was a great guy and he fit right into their family.
Can you delve deeper into Kouri and Eric's professional lives?
Certainly. Eric started a stone masonry business while Kouri established a successful real estate company. She would buy houses, renovate them, and sell them at a profit. Her business acumen and common sense were often highlighted by her colleagues.
How many houses was Kouri handling at any given time?
Kouri's mother, Lisa Darden, mentions that she would typically manage 3 houses at a time, creating a constant rotation of buying, renovating, and selling properties.
How would you describe their lifestyle?
According to those close to them, Kouri and Eric lived comfortably, freely buying what they wanted. They enjoyed hunting and traveled the world during their spare time. It appeared they had an enviable life.
What was the impact of Eric's death on his family?
Greg Skordas, the family's spokesman, stressed the depth of their loss. He described the family as extremely close-knit, and Eric's unexpected death was a devastating blow.
What was the result of the autopsy?
The autopsy revealed that Eric did not die from an aneurysm, as initially suspected, but from a lethal dose of fentanyl, a potent and dangerous opioid.
How does Kouri's family explain the presence of fentanyl in Eric's system?
Kouri's family alleges that Eric's recreational drug use could be responsible. They claim that Eric would routinely consume a THC-infused gummy to unwind at the end of the day. Eric's use of THC-infused gummies was a habit that Ronnie Darden, Kouri's brother, says Eric did not always source from reputable sellers. Lisa Darden, Kouri's mother, also mentions that Eric occasionally took pain pills.
Are you suggesting Eric may have unknowingly taken something laced with fentanyl?
That's the theory Kouri's family proposed. They think it might have been a tragic accident caused by Eric consuming something unknowingly laced with fentanyl.
How has Eric's family reacted to this claim?
Eric's family strongly disputes it. They don't believe his death was the result of a self-inflicted drug overdose. In fact, they began to question if Kouri may have played a part in his death.
How has Kouri been dealing with the loss of her husband?
Kouri reportedly struggled in the months following Eric's death, both as a grieving widow and as a single mom to their 3 sons. However, she eventually turned her grief into action.
Could you provide an example of how she transformed her grief into action?
Absolutely. 1 year after Eric's death, Kouri wrote a children's book titled Are You With Me? It's a story aimed at helping children cope with the loss of a loved one. In the book, the character representing Eric is portrayed as an angel who's always close by. It served as a relatable bedtime story for her sons and other children dealing with a similar loss.
What can you tell us about the reception of Kouri's book?
According to Kouri's mother, Lisa, the book was therapeutic, not only for Kouri, but for her entire family. It seemed to be a turning point towards healing and moving forward.
But there was a sudden change in the narrative. Can you explain?
Indeed, while Kouri and her family were on a path to recovery, the police were investigating Eric's death. In a shocking turn of events, Kouri was named the prime suspect in her husband's death, just weeks after promoting her book on TV.
What were the charges against Kouri?
Kouri was charged with aggravated murder. The court documents alleged she committed homicide by administering poison.
Was there any evidence supporting these allegations?
Greg Skordas, the spokesman for Eric's family, alleges that Kouri put a lethal dose of fentanyl into a drink she served Eric that night. However, Kouri's attorney, Sky Lazaro, stated that no fentanyl was found on any seized glassware.
How did Kouri and her family react to these charges?
Kouri's family was shocked and struggled to make sense of the charges. Kouri herself denies any involvement in her husband's death. Lisa, her mother, insists that anyone who knows Kouri would understand that she couldn't have done this.
What can you tell us about Kouri and Eric's relationship?
Like any couple, they had their disagreements. Eric wanted Kouri to be a stay-at-home mom, while she wanted to maintain her independence. They also disagreed about how much time Eric spent away on hunting trips, which could last up to 4 or 5 months a year.
There were also allegations of infidelity.
Yes, Kouri's mother, Lisa, alleges that there was infidelity on Eric's part. The couple sought counseling to work through these issues.
Was Eric considering ending the marriage?
Yes, there was a point where Eric considered divorce, but decided against it for the sake of their children. Instead, he reportedly put his estate into a secret trust without telling Kouri, with his sister Katie being in charge.
How was their relationship leading up to Eric's death?
According to Ronnie, Kouri's brother, the couple seemed to be in a better place than they had been for a long time. The family dynamics seemed positive.
Nevertheless, Kouri is accused of murder. What might have been the motive?
Court documents suggest a potential life insurance payout might have been the motive. At the time of Eric's death, there were at least 6 life insurance policies on him, totaling nearly $4 million. Eric's family believes it was driven by greed.
Could you shed some light on the allegations against Kouri regarding Eric's personal accounts and his business?
Court documents allege that Kouri has been misappropriating funds from Eric's personal accounts and his business for years. They also accuse Kouri of forging Eric's signature to get another life insurance policy worth an additional $50,000.
What was Kouri's financial situation at the time of Eric's death?
According to Greg Skordas, Kouri's house flipping business was allegedly drowning in nearly $2 million of debt. He suggests that Kouri was in desperate need of money.
What was the financial agreement between Eric and Kouri?
They had a premarital agreement that stipulated Kouri had given up claim to Eric's business assets unless Eric died while they were lawfully married.
What's Kouri's defense against these allegations?
Kouri's attorney, Sky Lazaro, disputes the allegations that Kouri forged Eric's signature or misappropriated funds. She states that any debt was related to Kouri's business of flipping houses, which is financed through lines of credit that are paid back once a home sells.
What's intriguing here is that, according to Lisa, Eric was fully aware of all the financial transactions. He was even supportive of Kouri's business ventures, such as the purchase of the mansion they celebrated on the night of his death. This paints a more complex picture of their relationship and the business arrangements between them.
Building on our earlier discussion, it's worth noting that Eric's family believes this wasn't the first time Kouri had attempted to poison him.
That's quite a serious allegation. Can you tell us more about the property that Kouri was planning to flip?
Sure. The property in question is a nearly 10-acre estate located near Salt Lake City, Utah. It's in close proximity to famous ski resorts and recreational areas. The estate includes a 20,000-square-foot mansion and a 4,000-square-foot guest house that were built in 2017 but never finished.
How did Kouri come to acquire this property?
Kouri discovered the abandoned project and managed to secure financing from a group of investors. She made an offer on the house for $1.9 million with plans to develop it into a recreational hotspot.
And what was the expected profit from this venture?
According to discussions with an accountant, Kouri and Eric could have expected to make approximately $4 million if they stayed under budget.
That's a considerable margin. It seems like Kouri had high ambitions for her real estate ventures.
Yes, and according to Greg Hall, who worked with Kouri, there was a lot of excitement around the project. It's an interesting piece in the puzzle of Kouri and Eric's relationship and the events leading up to his untimely death.
What is the family's recollection of Eric's stance on the property deal?
According to Greg Skordas, Eric's family spokesperson, they recall Eric being supportive of his wife, but not necessarily in favor of the deal. There's a filing mentioning that Eric and Kouri were arguing about buying the property.
Now, coming back to the poisoning allegations, what exactly does the family suspect?
The family alleges that Kouri tried to poison Eric on 2 separate occasions. The first incident reportedly happened in 2019 during a vacation in Greece, where Eric became violently ill after drinking a cocktail provided by Kouri.
But there seems to be a counter-argument to that incident, right?
Yes, Ronnie Darden, Kouri's brother, suggests it was a misunderstanding, as Eric was on medication that shouldn't be mixed with alcohol. He believes that a non-alcoholic drink was requested, but the waitress mistakenly served an alcoholic drink.
And what about the second alleged poisoning attempt?
The second incident is said to have occurred on Valentine's Day 2022, a month before Eric's death. Eric's family claims that he had an adverse reaction after eating a sandwich brought to him by Kouri.
What does Kouri's side have to say about this?
Kouri's family and her attorney, Sky Lazaro, deny these allegations, attributing the Valentine's Day incident to a bad sandwich and asserting that there's no concrete evidence to support the poisoning claims.
What have the court documents revealed about Kouri's behavior following Eric's death?
According to the documents, Eric's family alleges that Kouri physically assaulted Eric's sister, Amy, when she attempted to stop Kouri from opening a safe that supposedly contained significant cash.
What's the context behind this safe?
Eric had created a secret trust during their marital troubles, and this safe was likely a part of that trust. Kouri was unaware of this trust until Eric's death.
How did Kouri's family respond to these allegations?
Kouri's brothers, Ronnie and DJ Darden, argue that it was Amy who initiated the conflict and that Kouri was merely defending herself. This altercation led to Kouri being charged with assault, to which she pleaded no contest.
What about the accusations regarding the poisoning? Did any new evidence come to light?
Greg Skordas claims that Kouri had contacted a known drug dealer and purchased fentanyl on more than one occasion. However, her attorney, Sky Lazaro, insists that the state needs to prove these allegations. Notably, Kouri appeared in court in June 2023 for a bond hearing.
So, the entire story is shrouded in controversy, with 2 families presenting very different narratives.
Exactly. It's a complex case, and each side has its version of the events leading up to and following Eric's untimely death. Right, for those just tuning in, we've been discussing an ongoing, convoluted case involving allegations of foul play, a secret trust, and 2 families with contrasting narratives. The case revolves around Eric, who passed away under suspicious circumstances, and Kouri, his wife, who is currently under scrutiny.
It's a tangled web for sure, with each twist and turn more shocking than the last.
Absolutely. We've delved into allegations of poisoning, an altercation over a safe containing large sums of money, and even a secret trust that came into light only after Eric's death. What's your take on these developments?
It's a head-spinning case indeed. Just when you think you have a grip on it, a new piece of information throws you off balance.
True. And amidst all this, Kouri has been charged with assault and implicated in serious allegations. Her bond hearing has further complicated the case.
It's one thing after another. We'll have to wait and see how it unfolds. Let's continue. Can you tell us more about what transpired at the bail hearing?
It was the first public appearance of Kouri Richins since she was charged. She sat in handcuffs next to her attorney, Sky Lazaro, for the duration of the 4-hour hearing. The prosecution presented evidence and called witnesses to build their case that Kouri had poisoned her husband.
What kind of evidence did the prosecution present?
One of the key pieces of evidence was the testimony of a cell phone expert, Chris Kotodrimos. He was called to testify about Google searches allegedly done by Richins, including queries about retrieving deleted text messages and information on lethal doses of fentanyl.
How did the defense respond to these allegations?
Lazaro suggested that the timing of these searches, which were supposedly conducted after Eric's death, could be interpreted differently. She posited that they might have been Kouri's attempts to understand the accusations being leveled against her.
Were there any other witnesses called to the stand?
Yes, the lead investigator on the case, Detective Jeff O'Driscoll, was questioned about where Kouri might have sourced the fentanyl. This line of questioning led to the mention of a certain Carmen Lauber, who worked for Richins and is referred to as CL.
What's the connection between Kouri and CL?
Well, CL worked for Kouri and had a past record with drugs. She testified that Kouri contacted her to procure fentanyl for an investor with a back injury.
So, is there evidence that CL actually acquired the drugs for Kouri?
According to Detective O'Driscoll, CL claimed she purchased between 15 to 30 fentanyl pills and sold them to Kouri in a cash transaction. This happened 3 days before Valentine's Day, which is when Eric's family alleges Kouri attempted to poison him.
Fascinating. So she allegedly bought the pills once and then a second time?
Exactly. Detective O'Driscoll testified that Kouri reached out to CL again for more fentanyl, stronger than the previous batch. This time, she paid with a check from her business.
And what's Kouri's defense's stand on these allegations?
Kouri's lawyer, Sky Lazaro, denies the allegations. She even suggested the check could have been for cleaning services provided by CL, not for drugs.
So, it's a clash of narratives, with the truth somewhere in between.
Indeed, it's a complex and high-stakes case, unraveling in real time.
Can you tell us more about Sky Lazaro's defense strategy?
Lazaro is questioning the credibility of CL's testimony. As a convicted felon on probation, Lazaro argues that CL's account might be influenced by a desire to avoid further legal trouble.
So she suggests CL might be saying what investigators want to hear.
Precisely, and Lazaro also points to a lack of evidence to corroborate CL's claims. There were no text messages found that indicated any drug requests, and no witnesses could confirm a hand-to-hand exchange of drugs.
It seems like the prosecution's case is not as airtight as we thought.
That's precisely what Lazaro is asserting. Without a clear link between Kouri obtaining the drugs and giving them to her husband, the murder charges could be hard to prove.
What's the expectation for Kouri Richins at this point?
As the bond hearing concluded, Lazaro was hopeful that Kouri would be granted bail. But in such a complex case, it's hard to predict the outcome.
What was the judge's decision on Kouri's bail hearing?
The judge, Richard Miyazik, decided against pretrial release for Kouri. He felt the circumstances of the case warranted keeping her in custody.
How has Kouri's time in jail been for her and her family?
Kouri's family says it's been tolling. She even suffered a medical emergency in custody, reportedly due to a medication mix-up that caused a seizure.
Any significant developments in the case since then?
Interestingly, while Kouri was in hospital, a handwritten note titled "Walk the Dog" was found in her cell. Prosecutors allege it's evidence of witness tampering, as it contains instructions for her mother about what her brother should say in court.
This case seems to be full of unforeseen twists and turns.
Absolutely. And with these new allegations, it's likely to become even more complex. We'll have to wait and see how it unfolds in court. Just a quick side note, folks. You are tuned into Hot Topic and Fresh News, and if you're enjoying the content, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. It really helps us continue to create high-quality content for free. And don't forget to share it with your friends, too. Remember, we're live every day.
Fantastic. Spot on. Your likes really make a difference. Now let's get back to the news.
This case reminds me of a recent story where a defendant tried to manipulate witnesses from behind bars. It just goes to show how complex these cases can get.
It's funny you mentioned that. I recently came across a strikingly similar tale. It's interesting to see these kinds of tactics being used. It really highlights the lengths some people will go to try and tilt the case in their favor.
I couldn't agree more. Let's return to our main story. According to Kouri, this controversial letter was actually part of a fiction book she's been writing. The judge denied the motion for no contact, ruling that there wasn't enough proof of witness tampering.
Fascinating twist. What's next for the families involved?
Both families are awaiting the trial, and their primary concern is for Eric and Kouri's 3 sons, who are currently living with a member of Eric's family. Both families hope to gain custody of the boys.
A complex case indeed. Thanks for keeping us updated. Can you give us an update on the contact the boys are having with their mother?
They're only allowed to speak to her twice a week on a video call.
And what about other family members?
Lisa, Ronnie, and DJ have been denied private visits, though Lisa attends all their sports practices as it's a public place. It's her way of supporting them.
Aside from the criminal case, are there any other cases ongoing?
Yes, there are also civil cases regarding the fate of Eric's estate. Both sides believe the other is after the money.
What's the family's stance on this?
They are staying united and hopeful that the state has put together a strong case. They're awaiting a verdict that delivers their version of justice.
Are they confident in Kouri's innocence?
They are. Both Lisa and DJ are 100% confident that Kouri will be found not guilty. Changing gears a bit, did you hear the latest trending news topic? I'm quite surprised by it. As we continue to follow this unfolding story, it's important to remember its complex layers. From the criminal case that could carry a sentence of 25 years to life, to ongoing civil disputes over Eric's estate, and of course, the welfare of the three boys at the heart of this case.
It's a tangled web indeed. The trial, set for 2025, promises to bring some resolution, but until then, the families and the public can only speculate and wait.
And while the families stay united and hopeful for their version of justice, we will continue to bring you updates and nuanced viewpoints on this case. Stay tuned for more on this and other trending news topics in our next episode. We appreciate you joining us today on Hot Topic and Fresh News as we delved into the latest news. Your presence and engagement means the world to us. Remember, subscribing and enabling notifications ensures you won't miss our analysis on the day's hottest topics. Share our channel with your fellow news enthusiasts on social media, at the dinner table, or during happy hour.
Hey, can't have anyone missing out on the news now, can we? We're here, beaming the latest updates straight to your device every single day. And trust me, we've got some fascinating discussions lined up just around the corner.
Again, thank you for your continued support. We're excited about the next episode and hope to have you back with us. Stay in the loop, keep your eyes on the news. Our channel's content will amuse.